Hey guys, so today we're talking about that video that was going around the internet almost 2 weeks ago. The one about that guy who had allegedly paid $21,000 in tuition for his son, and then this one came back home with bad results. He failed. He failed, and he was scolding the child, and then everybody was super upset on the internet that why was he scolding the child that way. And I generally don't fight with people on Twitter, so I said let me come here and give you my opinion on the matter, and just let me explain what I'm saying. Let me get through it, let me land, and then if you disagree, we can fight in the comments. So let's go. So first of all, I want to mention a few things. One is we're operating with limited information here. All we have is what we saw from the video, and we're missing a lot of variables, so we're just kind of taking all of this at face value. Two is the more people talked about this on the internet, the more it became clear that the conversation is way bigger than it seems on the surface. Three, I'm just going to say it, in my opinion, I think every party involved here had some sort of fault in the situation. So I'm going to walk you through that and explain what I mean. So my thing here is, how are you going to pay $21K in tuition, but the school doesn't notify you that your child is struggling in school or missed an exam or maybe isn't attending classes? I feel like there should be a lot of accountability on the part of the school if the tuition fees are so high. My school was a boarding school, so we couldn't have PTA meetings every month or every 2 months even, but I just feel like the school should be doing something like sending the parent progress reports every month, maybe just so they can track and see how their kids are doing, because these parents seem genuinely shocked that their kid didn't do very well in school at the end of the term. To be honest, while I understand his frustration, I do think he was crossing that line from discipline to abuse. And I say this because there was a lot of name calling, a lot of slapping him, pulling his hair, hitting him, insults. He was, yelling at the boy. He called him a swine, an idiot. I don't think all those things are part of discipline, to be honest. And a few people on Twitter disagreed. They're like, no, it's not abuse. It's just disciplining him. This is how I was disciplined. See, just because it's what, a lot of us went through doesn't necessarily mean it was the right thing. Doesn't necessarily mean it was effective even, to be honest, because we all know that beating, slapping, shouting, some of these things don't work for some kids. Like, you can literally shout from today till tomorrow, beat them till their blood runs. It's not effective all the time. Yeah, people kept saying, well, if you spare the rod, you spoil the child. I'm like, listen, if I hear that thing one more time, I actually researched, because I was like, does the Bible actually say that, if you spare the rod, you spoil the child? And it doesn't. It says, those who spare the rod of discipline hate their children, but those who love their children care enough to discipline them. Now, to be honest with you, I don't know if the rod they were referring to was literally an iron rod, because the Bible is metaphorical sometimes. So it just feels like every time people say if you spare the rod, you spoil the child, they're picturing a 10-foot pole, iron cast rod. I don't necessarily know that that's what the Bible meant, right? It doesn't say anything about flogging the child. It says discipline, and discipline can literally mean any. Discipline should mean different things for the different children you're working with. It's not a one size fits all. For some children, if you beat them, they fall in line. For some kids, beat them, you're still talking to yourself. You need to figure out the best ways to get them to do what it is you want to do. I think that the reason why this video resonated so deeply with a lot of people is because we've all been there. We can all relate. We've all had situations when we were the child sitting in that chair, in that scenario, for whatever it is you may have done, but we've all had that exact same scenario. Some people even mentioned that, listen, that's the video we watched was literally just phase 1. Phase 2, they actually bring out Cain and beat you proper. And I understand that it's what a lot of us are used to. We become desensitized to it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it was the best way. It doesn't necessarily mean that we can't improve. And I don't say any of this with any judgment. I'm not saying that from my experience as a parent, because I don't have kids right now. Looking at this scenario, the one position I can relate to is the position of the child, the perspective of being the child sitting down there in that chair. In my experience so far, screaming insults at the child sitting down in front of you, it's just never helpful. It never does anything positive. I mean, we all know that it takes so much for people to detach themselves from the negative words that were spoken over them as children. It takes a lot of time, therapy. It takes a lot of Jesus, honestly. From what I've experienced, I always just felt like it was a very unnecessary part of discipline. Now, I just had questions here, who is the woman filming? Why is she filming? who posted it online? And we presume that, you know, like the person filming was the mother. And if she was, why didn't she step in? Why didn't she do more? And I kept wondering about these things, but honestly, like, maybe she couldn't do more. Maybe she couldn't say more. Because let's be honest, it's not uncommon to find African homes where there's an imbalance of power and where the woman can't say anything to the man. I don't know if that was the situation here. I just generally have questions about this portion of the equation, because this is where a lot went wrong. Like, that they posted it on the internet with the results. It's just a little strange. Now, there's so many possible things that may have caused the boy to not do well in school. One of them is, you know, a theory that a lot of people had, that because the boy did well in music, it indicates that the boy has an interest for music, and as such, music should be cultivated, right? Well, I don't know. I don't think I can get behind that one, to be honest with you, because personally speaking, if my kid wanted to do music, I feel like I would support them, but it still wouldn't mean that they're allowed to not do well in school. Assuming it's true that the boy loves music and wants to pursue a career in music, I still find it disrespectful that, you know, he would fail every other subject after you paid 21K and then only pass music. And just, let's remove the 21K. Let's assume the education was free. I think it's oversimplifying the situation to say that, oh, he's into music, let's just cultivate music and stop overreacting. Because at the end of the day, secondary school is not just about, you know, teaching you the material, right? One of the things it's meant to teach you is discipline. So if I send you to school and you only do well in music because you only like music and you intentionally neglect everything else, then we're gonna have a problem, and rightfully so. I feel like it's only right that every child be taught to work hard, and then when the time comes, you can go and pursue your music career. It speaks to a larger underlying issue of discipline, you know, and whatever else may be going on. Which brings me to my second point. There may be something else going on, which is why he didn't do well in any subjects besides music. I mean, there are literally a host of things that get in the way of children's learning, starting from dyslexia to ADHD to autism. Okay, well, maybe autism, they would have realized it sooner. Dyslexia, for example, is one of those big ones that affects a lot of people, but there is almost always no awareness, no education about it. A lot of times teachers don't know what it is, don't know how to help. Parents don't know what it is, so you just end up having a lot of kids who just keep suffering in a system that is not helping them because it doesn't recognize them. And in the video, the dad kept saying, you know, you can't read, you come home with the results that look like you can't read. And when he said that, in my head, I just kept thinking, maybe he can't read. Because think about it, like failing every subject, all but one. And the thing is, we don't know what the music subject was like, right? We don't know if it was based on writing and reading, or we don't know if it was actually just like playing music. But I don't know, it's just failing all those subjects indicates that there's a problem somewhere. Now, a third plausible cause is that the boy just didn't care. We genuinely do not have any right to judge this family, but I do think that it's an important conversation for us to have. I understand that the father was frustrated. I understand as much as I can possibly understand, because I've never paid 21K for anybody to go to school and had them come back with bad results, right? So I know that there are limits to how much I can understand this. And I think as human beings, we tend to throw our anger and frustration at the situation, but it's not always the most helpful thing. Whatever it was, there was a problem that had to be identified and solved, and I hope they did that. And when we talk about how we can leave behind some negative aspects of how we were raised, a lot of times it's wishful thinking, especially for those of us who don't have kids right now. People always tell you that it's not quite that simple, right? Like, it's easier said than done. But yo, like, when I actually met Nigerian parents who were actually doing the things, like breaking some of these cycles and being super intentional and raising their kids in an environment that was not defined by fear or punishment. It was the first time that I saw Nigerian kids who were not scared of everything, quaking their boots at every second because my mom will flog me, my dad will flog me. They were amazing, they were free, they were respectful. When they made a mistake, they could come and say they had made a mistake. They knew that they were valuable. They knew that they were loved by the people taking care of them. Literally, it was the best thing ever. And no, they were not spoiled, because for some reason people seem to think that if you don't abuse your kids or if you don't flog them and flog them till they can move no more, like, then you're spoiling them. It was just literally the most refreshing thing to see, and it was also very encouraging that that kind of thing is possible. You know, it just takes work, it takes time, it takes Jesus Christ. But I don't know where that myth that if you don't flog your kids you are spoiling them. Okay, wait, I see. Spoil the road, you spoil the child. Okay, I see where the myth came from. But yeah, I don't think it's necessarily true, to be honest.